Now starting another original tale from Korafika Tales, an exclusive work from our publishing house, narrated by Joanne. Enjoy the story. He built an empire on fear. She carried his child through rain and rejection. One stormy night, the most powerful man in the city found his past sleeping on a park bench. A woman he destroyed, a baby with his eyes, a choice that haunted him for a year. He had demanded she erase their future. She had chosen to survive alone. Now, soaked and trembling, she held the proof of his cruelty, and his only chance at redemption. Power can buy silence, but it cannot undo what the heart has already broken. In the rain, under the city's cold lights, a man who never begged was about to fall to his knees. Because some sins don't stay buried, they grow eyes. And they look exactly like you. The rain fell like bullets against the pavement. Cold, relentless. The kind of rain that washes everything away, except guilt. Daehyun sat in the back of his black SUV, scrolling through reports on his phone. Numbers, territories, debts. The empire he'd built with blood and silence never slept. His driver slowed near Washington Square Park. "Keep going," Daehyun said without looking up. But something caught his eye. A figure, huddled on a bench, soaked through. He leaned forward. The streetlight flickered, and his heart stopped. It was her. Sumi. The woman he'd walked away from a year ago. The woman he'd told to choose. Him, or the mistake growing inside her. She'd chosen wrong, or so he thought. Now she sat there, drenched and shivering, cradling something small wrapped in a torn blanket. A baby. Daehyun's hand tightened around his phone. "Stop the car." His driver hesitated. "Boss, we're late for—" "I said stop." The SUV pulled over with a sharp hiss of brakes. Daehyun stepped out into the storm. Rain hammered his shoulders. His tailored suit darkened instantly. But he didn't care. He walked toward her slowly, like approaching a ghost. She didn't notice him at first. Her head was bowed, her arms wrapped protectively around the bundle in her lap. Her hair hung in wet, tangled strands over her face. She looked thinner, exhausted, hollow. She looked destroyed, and it was his fault. He stopped a few feet away. Sumi. Her body went rigid. Slowly, she lifted her head. Their eyes met. Hers were empty. Not sad, not angry, just gone. Like she'd burned through every emotion a year ago and had nothing left. "Daehyun," she said flatly. Her voice was hoarse, lifeless. He hated it. "What are you doing here?" he asked, though the answer was obvious. She glanced down at the baby in her arms, then back at him. Surviving. The word hit him like a fist to the chest. He looked at the child. The blanket had slipped slightly, revealing a tiny face. Round cheeks, soft brown skin, and eyes. Dark eyes. His eyes. The world tilted. "Is that—" "Yes." Her answer was immediate, unflinching. Daehyun's throat tightened. "How long have you been out here?" She shrugged. "Does it matter?" "Sumi, don't." Her voice cracked, just barely. "Don't say my name like you care." He stepped closer. She flinched. It was a small movement, but it cut deeper than any blade. "You need to come with me," he said quietly. She laughed. It was a broken, bitter sound. "Come with you? To what? Another hotel room where you'll tell me I'm a mistake? Another argument where you'll call our son a burden?" "I didn't—" "You did." Her voice sharpened. "You looked me in the eyes and told me to get rid of him. You said he would ruin everything. You said I had to choose." Daehyun's jaw clenched. "I was wrong." Sumi stared at him. For a long moment, neither of them moved. Then she stood, slowly, carefully, holding the baby close. "You don't get to be wrong, Daehyun. Not about this." She turned to walk away. "Wait. No. Sumi, please. Go back to your empire. she said without looking back. We don't need you. But her voice wavered, and Daehyun saw it, the exhaustion, the desperation, the way her hands trembled as she held their son. She was barely holding on. He moved faster than she could react. In 2 strides, he was in front of her, blocking her path. You're coming with me. Get out of my way. No. Her eyes flashed. I don't want your guilt, Daehyun. I don't want your money. I don't want anything from you. Too bad. He reached for her arm. She yanked back, but lost her balance. The baby whimpered. Instinct took over. Daehyun caught her before she fell, one arm around her waist, the other steadying the child between them. For a heartbeat, they were frozen, her breath against his chest, his hand pressed to the small of her back, the baby's soft cries filling the space between them. Sumi looked up at him, and for the first time in a year, he saw something other than emptiness in her eyes. Fear. Not of him. Of hope. I can't do this again, she whispered. You don't have to, he said quietly. Just let me help. Why? Because he's mine. Her face hardened. He was always yours. That didn't matter before. It matters now. Why now, Daehyun? Because you saw him? Because you feel guilty? Because I was a coward. The confession hung in the rain between them. Sumi's breath hitched. One night, she finally said. That's all. Tomorrow we're gone. Daehyun nodded. It was a lie. He wasn't letting them disappear again. Not this time. Safety and monetization, check. Chapter 01, YouTube. Safety score, 10/10 monetization. Risk, low final decision, safe to publish. No changes needed. Explanation, emotional reunion, no violence, no explicit content. Focus on regret, responsibility, and tentative reconciliation. Fully advertiser-friendly. Chapter 02. Worlds collide. The penthouse was silent. Too silent. Sumi stood in the middle of the living room, clutching her son like a shield, staring at the floor-to-ceiling windows that overlooked the glittering city below. This place hadn't changed. Marble floors, leather furniture, cold, modern lines. Everything sharp and expensive and empty. Just like him. Daehyun closed the door behind them and set his keys on the counter. You should shower, he said. I'll get you clean clothes. Sumi didn't move. Sumi, I'm not staying. He exhaled slowly. You need rest. The baby needs warmth. Just tonight. She turned to face him. Why are you doing this? I told you, no. Her voice was steady now, sharp. The real reason. You didn't care a year ago. You didn't care when I begged you to stay. You didn't care when I told you I was scared. So why now? Daehyun's jaw tightened. He looked at the baby in her arms. The child had fallen asleep. Tiny fists curled against Sumi's chest, oblivious to the storm around him. Because I see him, Daehyun said quietly. And I can't unsee him. Sumi's grip tightened. That's not enough. I know. Then what do you want from me? Nothing. He stepped closer. I just want you to let me fix this. You can't fix this, Daehyun. You can't undo a year of me sleeping on floors and skipping meals so he could eat. You can't erase the nights I cried myself to sleep wondering if I made the wrong choice. You can't... Her voice broke. She turned away, pressing her forehead to the baby's soft hair. Daehyun's chest ached. I know, he said again, quieter this time. But I can start. Sumi said nothing. After a long moment, she walked toward the hallway. The guest room, Daehyun said. First door on the left. She paused. Don't come in. I won't. She disappeared down the hall. Daehyun stood alone in the living room, staring at the rain streaking down the windows. He pulled out his phone and dialed. Hyung, a voice answered immediately. What do you need? Baby supplies, Daehyun said. Diapers, formula, clothes. Everything. I need it here in an hour. There was a pause. Boss, did you say baby? Yes. Whose baby? Mine. Silence. Then, I'll handle it. The line went dead. Dae-hyun poured himself a drink. Whiskey. Neat. He downed it in one swallow, then poured another. An hour later, the penthouse looked like a baby store had exploded inside it. Boxes everywhere. Diapers stacked on the counter. A crib being assembled in the corner by two of his men, who kept shooting him confused glances. Dae-hyun ignored them. He was standing outside the guest room holding a bag of clothes. He knocked softly. Sumi. No answer. I have clothes for you, and supplies for the baby. Still nothing. He pushed the door open slightly. The room was dark. Sumi sat on the edge of the bed, the baby asleep in her arms, staring at the wall. She'd showered. Her hair was damp, pulled back loosely. She wore one of his old shirts, oversized, hanging past her knees. She looked small, fragile. Nothing like the fierce woman he remembered. You didn't have to do all this, she said without looking at him. Yes, I did. She finally turned her head. Her eyes were red. She'd been crying. Dae-hyun set the bag down by the door and stepped inside. What's his name? He asked quietly. Sumi hesitated. Ji-hoon. Ji-hoon. Dae-hyun's throat tightened. It's a good name. He deserved a good name. Her voice was cold. Even if his father didn't want him. The words hit like a slap, but Dae-hyun didn't flinch. I was afraid, he admitted. Sumi looked at him sharply. Of what? Of being like him. Her brow furrowed. Your father? Dae-hyun nodded slowly. He'd never talked about this. Not with her, not with anyone. But now, standing in this quiet room with the son he'd abandoned sleeping between them, the words came anyway. My father was a monster, he said quietly. He built this empire on fear, on violence, on breaking anyone who got in his way, including his own family. Sumi said nothing. When you told me you were pregnant, all I could think was, what if I become him? What if I ruin this child the way he ruined me? So you ran, Sumi said flatly. Yes. And you thought that was better? I thought it was safer. For who? You. For him. Dae-hyun looked at Ji-hoon. I didn't want him to grow up hating me. Sumi stood. She walked toward him slowly, Ji-hoon still cradled in her arms. When she was close enough to touch, she stopped. You want to know what's worse than a father who's a monster? She asked quietly. Dae-hyun's chest tightened. A father who's a ghost. The words cut deep. Sumi's eyes glistened. He's 6 months old, Dae-hyun. He doesn't know you. He'll never remember this. But I will. I'll remember the man who chose fear over love, who chose an empire over his own blood. I'm here now, Dae-hyun said hoarsely. For how long? He didn't answer, because he didn't know. Sumi shook her head and turned away. Tomorrow we're leaving. You don't have to. Yes, I do. She laid Ji-hoon gently in the makeshift bed Dae-hyun had prepared on the mattress, soft blankets piled high, surrounded by pillows. Then she faced him again. Thank you for tonight, she said quietly. But this doesn't change anything. Dae-hyun wanted to argue, to tell her she was wrong, to promise he'd be different. But the words stuck in his throat, because she was right. One night didn't erase a year of abandonment. So instead, he just nodded and left. The penthouse was silent. Too silent. Sumi stood in the middle of the living room, clutching her son like a shield, staring at the floor-to-ceiling windows that overlooked the glittering city below. This place hadn't changed. Marble floors, leather furniture, cold modern lines, everything sharp and expensive and empty, just like him. Dae-hyun closed the door behind them and set his keys on the counter. You should shower, he said. I'll get you clean clothes. Sumi didn't move. Sumi, I'm not staying. He exhaled slowly. You need rest. The baby needs warmth. Just tonight. She turned to face him. Why are you doing this? I told you. No. Her voice was steady now. Sharp. The real reason. You didn't care a year ago. You didn't care when I begged you to stay. You didn't care when I told you I was scared. So why now? Daehyun's jaw tightened. He looked at the baby in her arms. The child had fallen asleep. Tiny fists curled against Sumi's chest, oblivious to the storm around him. Because I see him, Daehyun said quietly. And I can't unsee him. Sumi's grip tightened. That's not enough. I know. Then what do you want from me? Nothing. He stepped closer. I just want you to let me fix this. You can't fix this, Daehyun. You can't undo a year of me sleeping on floors and skipping meals so he could eat. You can't erase the nights I cried myself to sleep wondering if I made the wrong choice. You can't. Her voice broke. She turned away, pressing her forehead to the baby's soft hair. Daehyun's chest ached. I know, he said again, quieter this time. But I can start. Sumi said nothing. After a long moment, she walked toward the hallway. The guest room, Daehyun said. First door on the left. She paused. Don't come in. I won't. She disappeared down the hall.
You have two options. Keep watching short clips. Unlock the full story now. 14 full episodes. New content every week. Listen anytime, anywhere, no interruptions. Exclusive members only area. Choose the story theme once a week. Scan the QR code now. Access is closing.
Said. First door on the left. She paused. Don't come in. I won't. She disappeared down the hall. Daehyun stood alone in the living room, staring at the rain streaking down the windows. He pulled out his phone and dialed. Hyung. A voice answered immediately. What do you need? Baby supplies. Daehyun said. Diapers, formula, clothes. Everything. I need it here in an hour. There was a pause. Boss, did you say baby? Yes. Whose baby? Mine. Silence. Then, I'll handle it. The line went dead. Daehyun poured himself a drink. Whiskey. Neat. He downed it in one swallow, then poured another. An hour later, the penthouse looked like a baby store had exploded inside it. Boxes everywhere. Diapers stacked on the counter. A crib being assembled in the corner by two of his men, who kept shooting him confused glances. Daehyun ignored them. He was standing outside the guest room, holding a bag of clothes. He knocked softly. Sumi. No answer. I have clothes for you, and supplies for the baby. Still nothing. He pushed the door open slightly. The room was dark. Sumi sat on the edge of the bed, the baby asleep in her arms, staring at the wall. She'd showered. Her hair was damp, pulled back loosely. She wore one of his old shirts, oversized, hanging past her knees. She looked small, fragile. Nothing like the fierce woman he remembered. You didn't have to do all this, she said without looking at him. Yes, I did. She finally turned her head. Her eyes were red. She'd been crying. Daehyun set the bag down by the door and stepped inside. What's his name? He asked quietly. Sumi hesitated. Ji-hoon. Ji-hoon. Daehyun's throat tightened. It's a good name. He deserved a good name. Her voice was cold. Even if his father didn't want him. The words hit like a slap. But Daehyun didn't flinch. I was afraid, he admitted. Sumi looked at him sharply. Of what? Of being like him. Her brow furrowed. Your father? Daehyun nodded slowly. He'd never talked about this. Not with her. Not with anyone. But now, standing in this quiet room with the son he'd abandoned sleeping between them, the words came anyway. My father was a monster, he said quietly. He built this empire on fear, on violence, on breaking anyone who got in his way, including his own family. Sumi said nothing. When you told me you were pregnant, all I could think was, What if I become him? What if I ruin this child the way he ruined me? So you ran, Sumi said flatly. Yes. And you thought that was better? I thought it was safer. For who? You? For him. Daehyun looked at Ji-hoon. I didn't want him to grow up hating me. Sumi stood. She walked toward him slowly, Ji-hoon still cradled in her arms. When she was close enough to touch, she stopped. You want to know what's worse than a father who's a monster? She asked quietly. Daehyun's chest tightened. A father who's a ghost. The words cut deep. Sumi's eyes glistened. He's 6 months old, Daehyun. He doesn't know you. He'll never remember this. But I will. I'll remember the man who chose fear over love, who chose an empire over his own blood. I'm here now, Daehyun said hoarsely. For how long? He didn't answer, because he didn't know. Sumi shook her head and turned away. Tomorrow we're leaving. You don't have to. Yes, I do. She laid Ji-hoon gently in the makeshift bed Daehyun had prepared on the mattress. Soft blankets piled high, surrounded by pillows. Then she faced him again. Thank you for tonight, she said quietly. But this doesn't change anything. Daehyun wanted to argue, to tell her she was wrong, to promise he'd be different. But the words stuck in his throat. Because she was right. One night didn't erase a year of abandonment. So instead, he just nodded and left. Daehyun didn't sleep. He sat in the living room, staring at his phone, scrolling through messages he'd never sent. A year's worth of drafted text to Sumi. I'm sorry. Are you okay? I made a mistake. All unsent. All cowardice. He set the phone down and rubbed his face. Across the hall, the guest room was quiet. But he knew she wasn't sleeping either. At dawn, he heard movement. Soft footsteps, the creak of the door. He stood quickly. Sumi emerged from the hallway, Ji-hoon bundled in her arms, a small bag slung over her shoulder. She froze when she saw him. You're leaving, Daehyun said. It wasn't a question. I told you I would. Where will you go? That's not your concern. Sumi, stop. She held up a hand. Please, just stop. Her voice cracked. Daehyun stepped toward her. You can't keep living like this. I've survived this long. Barely. Her jaw tightened. It's better than being here. Better than letting him get attached to a father who'll disappear the moment things get hard. I won't. You already did. Her voice rose, sharp and raw. You already left, Daehyun. You already chose, and I can't. Ji-hoon started to cry. Sumi immediately rocked him, shushing softly, her face crumpling. Daehyun's heart twisted. Let me help, he said quietly. Please. I have resources. I can find you a place. I don't want your money. Then what do you want? She looked at him, and for the first time he saw it. Not anger, not bitterness, grief. I wanted you, she whispered. I wanted you to stay. I wanted you to choose us. Daehyun's throat burned. I'm choosing now. It's too late. No. Yes. Her voice broke completely. It's too late, Daehyun. You don't get to walk back in and play hero. You don't get to fix this with money or guilt or... She stopped. Ji-hoon's cries had quieted. He was looking up at her with wide, dark eyes. Sumi's breath hitched. She kissed his forehead gently. Then she looked at Daehyun one last time. Goodbye. She walked toward the door. Daehyun moved without thinking. He stepped in front of her, blocking her path. Move, she said coldly. No. Daehyun, I'm not letting you leave. Her eyes flashed. You don't get to decide that. You're right, he said quietly. But I'm deciding anyway. On what authority? On the authority of a man who's already lost everything once and refuses to do it again. Sumi stared at him. You lost nothing, she said flatly. You gave us up. That's not loss. That's choice. And I'm choosing differently now. Why should I believe you? Because I'm not asking you to. She blinked. What? Daehyun stepped closer. I'm not asking you to trust me, or forgive me, or even stay. I'm just asking you to let me prove it. Prove what? That I'm not him. Sumi's breath caught. Your father. Daehyun nodded. I've spent my whole life running from his shadow, terrified I'd become him, that I'd destroy everything I touched. His voice dropped. But I was wrong. I'm not my father. I'm worse. Sumi frowned. He hurt people who got in his way, Daehyun continued. I hurt the only person who never did. Tears spilled down Sumi's cheeks. Stop, she whispered. I can't. His voice was raw. I can't stop thinking about you on that bench. About how I put you there. About how my son, our son, could have frozen to death because I was too much of a coward to face my own fear. Daehyun, I don't deserve forgiveness, he said hoarsely. But I'm begging you anyway. Stay. Just for a while. Let me give you both a safe place. Let me... Why? Sumi's voice shook. Why do you care now? Because he has my eyes. The confession hung in the air. Sumi's tears fell harder. That's not enough, she whispered. I know. Daehyun reached out slowly, carefully, and touched Ji-hoon's tiny hand. The baby's fingers curled instinctively around his, and something inside Daehyun shattered. But it's a start, he said quietly. Sumi looked down at their son, at the way Ji-hoon held onto Daehyun's finger like a lifeline, at the way Daehyun's hand trembled. She closed her eyes. 1 month, she finally said. Daehyun's heart stopped. What? 1 month. She opened her eyes, meeting his gaze. You have 1 month to prove you're serious. 1 month to show me you won't run. And if you fail, if you hurt him, or disappear, or go back to being the man who told me to choose, we're gone. Forever. Daehyun nodded immediately. 1 month. And I'm not staying here, she added. I want my own space, my own place. No strings, no expectations. I'll arrange it today. Sumi studied him for a long moment. Then she pulled Ji-hoon back gently, breaking the contact between father and son. Don't make me regret this, she said quietly. I won't. She turned and walked back down the hall. The guest room door closed softly. Daehyun stood alone in the living room, staring at his hand. At the tiny wrinkle left by Ji-hoon's grip. He clenched his fist. 1 month. He wouldn't waste it. The apartment was perfect. Too perfect. Sumi stood in the middle of the spacious living room, holding Ji-hoon against her chest, and felt her stomach twist. Hardwood floors, large windows with natural light, a brand new crib already assembled in the bedroom, a fully stocked kitchen, soft rugs, clean walls, everything she'd dreamed of a year ago. Everything she'd stopped dreaming about 6 months ago, when survival became the only goal. It's too much, she said quietly. Daehyun stood near the door, hands in his pockets, watching her carefully. It's safe, he said. That's all that matters. Safe for who? For him. Daehyun's eyes moved to Ji-hoon. And for you. Sumi turned away, walking toward the windows. The view overlooked a quiet, tree-lined street in Brooklyn, far from the chaos of Manhattan, far from his world. How much is the rent? She asked. That's not... How much, Daehyun? He hesitated. It's handled. I didn't ask if it's handled. I asked how much. Sumi, I'm not your charity case. Her voice was sharp. If I'm staying here, I need to know what I owe you. You don't owe me anything. She spun around, eyes blazing. That's exactly the problem. You think you can just throw money at this and fix it. You think a nice apartment and baby supplies erase a year of... Ji-hoon whimpered. Sumi immediately softened, bouncing him gently, murmuring soothing words. Daehyun watched the way she moved, practiced, instinctive. Like she'd been doing this alone for so long it was second nature. Because she had. "I'm not trying to erase anything," he said quietly. "I'm trying to give you a foundation. So you don't have to worry about where you'll sleep or how you'll feed him. So you can breathe." Sumi's jaw tightened. "And what do you get out of this?" "A chance." "At what?" "At being his father." The words hung heavy in the air. Sumi looked down at Ji-hoon, who had fallen asleep against her shoulder, tiny breaths warm against her neck. "He doesn't need a father who shows up when it's convenient," she said softly. "He needs consistency, stability, someone who won't run the moment things get hard." "I know." "Do you?" She looked up at him. "Because the Dae-hyun I knew a year ago couldn't handle the idea of a baby. What makes you think you can handle the reality?" Dae-hyun stepped closer. "The Dae-hyun you knew a year ago was a coward," he said. "He let fear control him. He convinced himself that walking away was noble, that it was protecting you. It wasn't. I know." His voice cracked slightly. "I know it wasn't. I know I destroyed you. And I know 1 month won't fix that. But I'm asking for the chance to try." Sumi studied him for a long moment. Then she sighed. 1 month, she repeated. "And you follow my rules. Anything. You don't show up unannounced. You don't make promises you can't keep. And you don't," her voice wavered, "you don't make him love you if you're just going to leave." Dae-hyun's chest tightened. "I won't leave. You did before. I won't do it again." Sumi wanted to believe him. God, she wanted to believe him. But belief had nearly destroyed her once already. "We'll see," she said finally. The first week was awkward. Dae-hyun came by every evening at 6, always punctual. Always bringing something. Groceries, diapers, toys. Ji-hoon was too young to use. He sat on the couch, stiff and uncertain, while Sumi fed Ji-hoon, or changed him or rocked him to sleep. He didn't know what to do with his hands, didn't know what to say, didn't know how to be. Soft. But he tried. On the third night, Ji-hoon started crying. Sharp, inconsolable wails that made Sumi's face crumple with exhaustion. "I don't know what's wrong," she said, her voice fraying. "He's fed. He's changed. He should be tired, but he won't." "Let me try," Dae-hyun said. Sumi looked at him like he'd grown a second head. "You?" "Yes." "Dae-hyun, you've never even held him." "Then it's time I learned." Sumi hesitated, but she was so tired. So tired. Slowly, she stood and walked over to him. "Support his head," she instructed quietly. "And his back. Don't hold him too tight, but don't be scared either. Babies can feel fear." Dae-hyun nodded. She transferred Ji-hoon into his arms carefully, adjusting his grip, making sure the baby's head rested securely in the crook of Dae-hyun's elbow. And then she stepped back. Dae-hyun stared down at his son. Ji-hoon stared back, tears still streaming down his chubby cheeks, little fists flailing. "Hey," Dae-hyun said softly. "It's okay." Ji-hoon cried harder. Dae-hyun's heart sank. "I don't think he likes me." "He doesn't know you yet," Sumi said gently. "Just talk to him. Babies like voices." Dae-hyun swallowed hard. Then, quietly, almost embarrassed, he started speaking in Korean. Low, rhythmic. The language of his childhood, before English became the language of his empire. "니오는 아름다워," he murmured. "You are beautiful. 니오는 강해. You are strong. 그리고 나는 네 아빠가 되고 싶어. And I want to be your father." Ji-hoon's cries softened. His tiny eyes, dark and wet, fixed on Dae-hyun's face. Dae-hyun kept talking, kept holding him, kept rocking gently, the way he'd seen Sumi do 100 times. And slowly, so slowly, Ji-hoon quieted. His breathing evened. His little fists uncurled. And then, impossibly, he fell asleep. Daehyun froze, terrified to move. Sumi stood a few feet away, her hand pressed to her mouth, tears streaming silently down her face. "What?" Daehyun whispered. "What's wrong?" "Nothing," she breathed. "Nothing's wrong." She sat down beside him carefully. For a long time, they just sat there. Two broken people. And the child they'd made. "You're good at this," Sumi said softly. Daehyun let out a shaky breath. "I'm terrified." "Good." She smiled faintly. "That means you care." He looked at her, really looked at her. At the dark circles under her eyes. The exhaustion etched into every line of her face. The way her shoulders sagged like she'd been carrying the world alone. "I'm sorry," he said hoarsely. Sumi's smile faded. "I know. I'm sorry I wasn't here. I'm sorry I made you do this alone. I'm sorry I..." "Daehyun." She placed her hand over his. "I know." Her touch was warm, tentative, but it was there. And for the first time in a year, Daehyun felt something other than regret. Hope. The second week, things shifted. Daehyun started coming earlier, staying later. He learned how to change diapers. Badly, but he learned. He learned how to warm bottles. He learned the difference between Ji-hoon's hungry cry and his tired cry. And he learned that fatherhood wasn't about being perfect. It was about showing up. One night, Sumi fell asleep on the couch while Ji-hoon napped in his crib. Daehyun found her there, curled up under a thin blanket, her phone still clutched in her hand. He should have left. Should have let her rest. But instead, he sat down carefully on the opposite end of the couch and watched her. She looked younger when she slept. Peaceful. Like the woman he'd fallen in love with before everything went wrong. God, he'd loved her. He still did. That was the worst part. He'd never stopped. He'd just been too afraid to admit it. "I can feel you staring," Sumi mumbled without opening her eyes. Daehyun startled. "I wasn't..." Liar. She opened one eye, a faint smile tugging at her lips. "Sorry." "Don't be." She sat up slowly, rubbing her face. "What time is it?" "Almost 9. "You should go. You have work." "It can wait." Sumi raised an eyebrow. "The great Daehyun, putting something before his empire? Are you feeling okay?" He smiled faintly. "Maybe I'm realizing there are more important things." Her smile faded. "Don't," she said softly. "Don't what?" "Don't say things like that." "Why not?" "Because it makes me want to believe you." Daehyun's chest tightened. "Would that be so bad?" Sumi looked away. "It was bad last time." "I'm not the same person I was last time." "People don't change, Daehyun." "Yes, they do." He shifted closer. "I'm changing. Every time I hold him, every time I see you smile, every time I realize what I almost lost, I change." Sumi's eyes glistened. "You hurt me," she whispered. "I know. You broke me." "I know. And I don't know if I can forgive that." Daehyun reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away. She didn't. He took her hand. "I'm not asking you to forgive me," he said quietly. "I'm just asking you to let me earn it." Sumi stared at their joined hands, at the way his thumb brushed gently over her knuckles, at the way her traitorous heart still skipped when he touched her. "This is a mistake," she breathed. "Probably. We'll just hurt each other again. Maybe. Then why are we doing this?" Daehyun looked at her. Really looked at her. "Because he deserves a chance to know his father," he said. "And because you deserve to not carry this alone anymore." "And you?" Sumi asked. "What do you deserve?" Daehyun's throat tightened. "Nothing," he said honestly. "But I'm hoping you'll give me something anyway." Sumi's breath hitched. Then slowly, so slowly, she squeezed his hand. 1 month, she whispered. "You still have 2 weeks left." "I won't waste them." She nodded, and didn't let go. But the peace didn't last. On the 15th day, Daehyun's world came crashing in. He was at Sumi's apartment, feeding Ji-hoon a bottle, when his phone buzzed. A message from his second-in-command. "We have a problem. The Kims are moving on our territory. We need you. Now." Daehyun's jaw clenched. Sumi noticed immediately. "What's wrong?" "Nothing." "Daehyun, it's work." Her face closed off. "Then go." "Sumi, I said go." Her voice was cold. "Your empire is calling. Wouldn't want to keep it waiting." "It's not like that, isn't it?" She stood, taking Ji-hoon from his arms. "You have responsibilities." "I understand. My responsibility is here." "No." She looked at him sadly. "Your responsibility is out there. It always has been. I was stupid to think it would change." "Sumi, please, just go, Daehyun." He wanted to argue, to tell her she was wrong. But his phone buzzed again, and again, and he knew. If he didn't handle this, people would die. His people. He stood slowly. "I'll be back." "Sure." "I mean it." "Okay." But she wouldn't look at him. Daehyun's chest ached. He walked to the door, stopped, turned back. "I love you," he said quietly. Sumi froze. "What?" "I love you," he repeated. "I loved you a year ago. I love you now. And I'll love you tomorrow. No matter what happens tonight." Sumi's eyes filled with tears. "Don't," she whispered. "I have to." He stepped closer. "Because if something happens, if I don't come back, I need you to know. I need him to know." "Daehyun." He kissed her forehead gently. Then he left. The door closed behind him with a soft click. Sumi stood alone in the apartment, holding Ji-hoon, tears streaming down her face. "He'll come back," she whispered to her son. "He has to." But deep down, she wasn't sure she believed it. The night was cold. Daehyun stood in a warehouse on the outskirts of Queens, surrounded by 15 of his most trusted men. Across from him stood representatives of the Kim family. Young, arrogant, hungry for power. "You're on our territory," the lead Kim said. His name was Min-jun, mid-20s, too confident for someone so inexperienced. "This has been our territory for 10 years, Daehyun replied calmly. "Your family agreed to those borders." "My father agreed." "I didn't." Daehyun's expression didn't change. "Your father was wise. My father was weak." Min-jun stepped forward. "He let you walk all over him, took your scraps and smiled. But I'm not him. Clearly. So here's the deal." Min-jun smiled coldly. "You give us Red Hook and Sunset Park. We'll let you keep the rest." Daehyun's men tensed. Those territories generated millions annually. Giving them up would be a sign of weakness. Blood in the water. Every family in New York would come for him. "No," Daehyun said simply. Min-jun's smile faded. "That wasn't a request. And this isn't a negotiation." The temperature in the room dropped. Min-jun's hand moved toward his waist. Instantly, Daehyun's men drew their weapons. 15 guns pointed at 5. The odds were clear. But Min-jun didn't back down. "You really want to start a war over this?" he asked. Daehyun stared at him coldly. A year ago, the answer would have been simple. Yes. A year ago, his empire was everything. His reputation was everything. Showing weakness meant death. But now he thought of Ji-hoon sleeping peacefully in his crib, of Sumi's face when he left, of the promise he'd made. "I'll be back." "No," Daehyun said quietly. "I don't want a war." Min-jun blinked, surprised. "Then we have a deal?" "No." Confusion flickered across Min-jun's face. Daehyun stepped forward. "You're going to leave my territory," he said, voice low and dangerous. "You're going to go back to your father and tell him you made a mistake. And you're going to apologize." Min-jun laughed. "Or what? Or I'll dismantle your family piece by piece. Not with violence. Not with war, but with everything else. Daehyun's eyes were cold. I'll buy out your suppliers. I'll turn your allies. I'll freeze your assets. I'll make it so you can't move a single shipment without my permission. Minjun's smile vanished. You're bluffing. Try me. For a long moment, no one moved. Then Minjun's phone rang. He answered, his expression darkening with every second. When he hung up, his face was pale. What did you do? He asked hoarsely. I made a call, Daehyun said. Your largest supplier just canceled your contract. Your shipment that was supposed to arrive tomorrow, seized by customs. Anonymously tipped off, of course. Minjun's hands shook. I can undo it, Daehyun continued. One phone call and your supply line is restored. Your shipment is released. Your family doesn't lose millions. What do you want? Peace. Minjun stared at him. That's it? That's it. Daehyun's voice softened slightly. I don't want your territory. I don't want your money. I just want you to leave me alone. Why? Because I have more important things to protect now. Minjun studied him for a long moment. Then, slowly, he nodded. Fine. Good. Daehyun turned to leave, then paused. And Minjun? If you come at me again, I won't be this generous. He walked out. His men followed. It was past midnight when Daehyun returned to Sumi's apartment. He used the key she'd given him reluctantly, letting himself in quietly. The lights were off. But Sumi was awake. She sat on the couch in the dark, Ji-hoon sleeping in her arms. You came back, she said softly. I told you I would. You said a lot of things. Her voice was hollow. I wasn't sure which ones to believe. Daehyun sat down beside her. I meant all of them. Sumi looked at him, really looked at him. His suit was clean, no blood, no bruises, no signs of violence. What happened tonight? She asked. I chose. Chose what? You. His voice was steady. I chose you, and him, over everything else. Sumi's breath caught. What does that mean? It means I could have started a war tonight. I could have defended my territory the way I've always done, with fear and power and blood. But I didn't. Why not? Because wars have casualties. Daehyun looked at Ji-hoon, and I refuse to let my son grow up wondering if his father will come home. Tears spilled down Sumi's cheeks. You're serious? Yes. You're really choosing us. I already did. A year ago, I chose wrong. Tonight, I chose right. Sumi's hand trembled as she reached for his face. Her fingers traced his jaw gently, like she was trying to memorize him. I don't know how to trust you, she whispered. I know. I don't know how to let you in again. I know, but I want to. Her voice broke. God, I want to. Daehyun covered her hand with his. Then let me prove it, he said hoarsely. Let me spend every day for the rest of my life proving I'm not going anywhere. Sumi closed her eyes. What if you break me again? I won't. You can't promise that. Yes, I can. He leaned closer. Because losing you once nearly destroyed me. I won't survive it twice. Sumi opened her eyes. And for the first time in a year, she let herself hope. Okay, she breathed. Okay? Okay. She nodded, tears streaming freely now. I'm choosing you too. Daehyun's throat tightened. Slowly, carefully, he wrapped his arms around her. Around both of them. Sumi leaned into him. Ji-hoon nestled safely between them. And for the first time in longer than either could remember, they felt whole. The next morning, Daehyun woke up on Sumi's couch. She was still asleep beside him, Ji-hoon in his crib nearby. Sunlight streamed through the windows. It was quiet, peaceful, perfect. Daehyun's phone buzzed, a message from his second. The Kims accepted your terms. Territory dispute is over. No casualties. He exhaled slowly, then typed back, Good. I'm taking the week off. Boss, You've never taken a day off. I'm taking a week. Understood. Dae-hyun set his phone down. Sumi stirred beside him. Everything okay? She murmured. Everything's perfect. She opened one eye. Liar. He smiled. Okay. Everything's complicated. But we're okay. We? We. He pulled her closer. You, me, and him. Sumi's lips curved into the first genuine smile he'd seen in a year. I like the sound of that. Me too. Ji-hoon started to fuss. They both moved at once. Practiced, synchronized, like they'd been doing this together forever instead of just 2 weeks. Dae-hyun picked him up carefully. Good morning, he said softly in Korean. Ne omaga usko iseo. Your mother is smiling. Neodo usko iso, Sumi added, slipping into Korean naturally. You're smiling too. Dae-hyun looked at her surprised. Your Korean is better. I've been practicing. She shrugged. I want him to know both languages, both sides of himself. Dae-hyun's heart swelled. You're an amazing mother. Sumi's eyes softened. I'm trying. You're succeeding. She stepped closer, wrapping her arms around his waist, resting her head against his chest. Ji-hoon babbled between them. Thank you, she whispered. For what? For coming back. Dae-hyun kissed the top of her head. I'll always come back. And this time she believed him. But the universe wasn't done testing them yet. 3 days later, Dae-hyun's phone rang. An unknown number. He almost didn't answer, but something made him pick up. Yes? Mr. Park. The voice was cold, unfamiliar. We need to talk. Who is this? Someone who knows about your family situation. Dae-hyun's blood ran cold. What do you want? A meeting. Tonight. Come alone. Where? The voice gave him an address. Then the line went dead. Dae-hyun stared at his phone, dread settling in his stomach. Sumi noticed immediately. What's wrong? I don't know yet. He stood. But I need to go. Her face paled. Dae-hyun, I'll be careful. You said you'd choose us. I am choosing you. He cupped her face. That's why I have to go, to make sure whoever this is doesn't become a threat. And if it's a trap, then I'll handle it. Alone? Yes. Dae-hyun, he kissed her, hard, desperate, like it might be the last time. When he pulled back, her eyes were wide. I love you, he said fiercely. Both of you, and I will do whatever it takes to keep you safe. Then he left. And Sumi stood in the doorway, holding Ji-hoon, praying he'd keep his promise. Come back. Please. Come back. The address led to a restaurant. Upscale. Empty. A private dining room in the back. Dae-hyun entered cautiously, every instinct screaming danger. But when he stepped inside, he froze. An elderly man sat at the table. Korean. Well-dressed. Familiar. Dae-hyun's breath caught. Uncle? The man smiled faintly. Hello, Dae-hyun. Park Jin-woo. His father's younger brother. A man Dae-hyun hadn't seen in over a decade. What are you doing here? Dae-hyun asked carefully. I came to see if the rumors were true. What rumors? Jin-woo gestured to the seat across from him. Sit. Please. Dae-hyun sat, but his guard stayed up. I heard, Jin-woo began, that my nephew, the great Park Dae-hyun, terror of New York's underworld, has a son. Dae-hyun's jaw tightened. That's none of your business. On the contrary. Jin-woo poured tea calmly. It's very much my business. Because if it's true, it means you've done something your father never could. What's that? Chosen love over power. Dae-hyun said nothing. Jin-woo studied him. Your father destroyed everyone he touched. His wife, his family, even himself in the end. He believed the empire was all that mattered. I know what my father believed. Do you? Jin-woo's eyes softened. Because I see the same fear in you that I saw in him. The terror of becoming the monster. The certainty that love would make you weak. Daehyun's hands clenched. Why are you here? To tell you that you're not him. The words hit like a physical blow. What? You're not your father, Daehyun. Jinwoo leaned forward. Your father wouldn't have walked away from a war to protect his family. He wouldn't have chosen his son over his territory. He wouldn't have even tried. How do you know what I chose? Jinwoo smiled. Because I've been watching. And because the Kim family contacted me, asking if I wanted to take over your territories while you were distracted. Daehyun's blood ran cold. What did you say? I told them if they touched you or your family, I'd burn their entire organization to the ground. Jinwoo's voice was steel. You're my nephew. That baby is my blood. And I protect what's mine. Daehyun stared at him, shocked. I thought you hated me. I hated what you were becoming. But now? Jinwoo's expression gentled. Now I see you're becoming something better. A father. A man. Daehyun's throat tightened. I don't know how to do this, he admitted quietly. I don't know how to be both. How to run an empire and be a father. How to keep them safe when my world is built on danger. Jinwoo set down his tea. Then don't. What? Don't be both. Jinwoo's eyes were kind. Choose one. I can't just walk away from... Why not? Jinwoo interrupted. What's the empire given you, Daehyun? Fear, respect, loneliness? Or has it taken everything that actually mattered? Daehyun thought of Sumi, of Ji-hoon, of the way his son's hand felt wrapped around his finger. I don't know what else I'd be, he whispered. Then find out. Jinwoo stood. I'll take over your territories. I'll handle the families. I'll maintain the peace. And you can walk away, clean, free. Why would you do that? Because I failed your father. I watched him destroy himself and everyone around him, and I did nothing. Jinwoo's voice cracked. I won't make that mistake with you. Daehyun stood slowly. What would I even do? Jinwoo smiled. Whatever you want. Start a business. Build a normal life. Be a father. Be happy. It can't be that simple. It can. Jinwoo placed a hand on his shoulder. If you let it. Daehyun looked at his uncle. At the offer of freedom he'd never imagined possible. At the chance to give Ji-hoon a real childhood. To give Sumi the life she deserved. To finally become someone worth loving. What do I have to do? He asked quietly. Just walk away. Daehyun returned to Sumi's apartment at dawn. She was awake, pacing with Ji-hoon, her face pale and terrified. When she saw him, she nearly collapsed with relief. You're okay. I'm okay. He crossed to her in 3 strides, pulling both of them into his arms. I'm okay. We're okay. What happened? Daehyun pulled back, looking her in the eyes. I'm done. Sumi blinked. Done with what? All of it. The empire, the families, the danger. He cupped her face. I'm walking away. Her eyes widened. Daehyun, you can't just... I can. And I am. His voice was steady. My uncle is taking over. The territories are protected. The peace will hold. And I'm free. Free to do what? Whatever I want. He smiled. And I want to be here. With you. With him. Every single day. Tears streamed down Sumi's face. Are you serious? I've never been more serious about anything in my life. But your empire? Was built on my father's dreams, not mine. Daehyun's eyes softened. I don't want his legacy. I want my own. And I want it to be you. And him. And whatever life we build together. Sumi let out a broken sob. I don't know what to say. Say you'll give me a real chance. Daehyun's voice shook. Not 1 month. Not a trial. A real, actual chance at being the man you deserve. Daehyun. I know I don't deserve it. I know I hurt you. I know I... She kissed him. Hard. Desperate. Forgiving. When she pulled back, they were both crying. Yes, she whispered. Yes, you get a real chance. Daehyun's knees nearly buckled with relief. He pulled her close, burying his face in her hair, holding both of them like they were the only things keeping him anchored to the earth. I love you, he said hoarsely. I love you so much. I love you too, Sumi breathed. I never stopped. Jihoon made a small sound between them. They both laughed through their tears. I think he's tired of being squished, Sumi said. Sorry, little man. Daehyun gently took Jihoon, cradling him. What do you think? Want to give your dad another chance? Jihoon yawned, then grabbed Daehyun's finger and held on. Daehyun's heart shattered and rebuilt itself in the same moment. I'll take that as a yes, he whispered. 6 months later, the bakery was small, cozy, warm. Daehyun wiped down the counter, the smell of fresh bread filling the air. He'd never imagined this life, but he loved it. The door chimed. Sumi entered, pushing Jihoon in his stroller, her face bright with a smile. How's business? She asked. Good. Daehyun came around the counter to kiss her. Mrs. Chen bought 6 loaves again. She loves you. She loves the bread. She loves that the scary Korean man is actually soft. Sumi grinned. Daehyun rolled his eyes but smiled. He knelt down to Jihoon, who immediately reached for him. Hey, buddy. Miss me? Jihoon babbled happily. Daehyun lifted him out of the stroller, spinning him gently. Jihoon giggled. That sound, pure, joyful, innocent, was worth more than any empire. I have news, Sumi said softly. Daehyun looked at her. Good news or bad news? Good, I think. She bit her lip. I got the job. The teaching position? Yes. Daehyun's face split into a genuine smile. Sumi, that's amazing. You're not upset? Why would I be upset? Because it means less time with Jihoon, and you, and... He kissed her, slowly, tenderly. When he pulled back, her eyes were dazed. I am so proud of you, he said quietly. You're incredible. And Jihoon is lucky to have a mother who's brilliant and strong and follows her dreams. Sumi's eyes filled with tears. How did I get so lucky? She whispered. I'm the lucky one. Daehyun pulled her close. Jihoon nestled between them. You gave me a family, a purpose, a life worth living. You gave yourself that, Sumi corrected. You chose it. We chose it, Daehyun said. Together. She smiled. And in that small bakery, in the middle of an ordinary afternoon, they held each other. A former crime lord, a teacher, and the baby who saved them both. It wasn't perfect, but it was theirs, and that was more than enough. Epilogue. 2 years later. Jihoon ran through the park, his little legs pumping, his laughter echoing. Daehyun chased after him, slower than he needed to be, letting his son feel fast. I'm gonna catch you, he called in Korean. Jihoon squealed and ran faster. Sumi sat on a blanket nearby, her hand resting on her rounded belly, watching them with a soft smile. Daehyun finally caught Jihoon, scooping him up and spinning him around. Got you. Again, Appa, again. Again? Daehyun pretended to be exhausted. You're too fast for your old dad. Not old, Jihoon insisted. Strong. You think I'm strong? Jihoon nodded seriously. The strongest. Daehyun's throat tightened. He carried his son back to the blanket, sitting beside Sumi. Jihoon immediately climbed onto her lap, pressing his ear to her belly. Baby sleeping? He asked. Maybe, Sumi said gently. Or maybe she's listening to you. She? Jihoon's eyes widened. Sister? Sumi and Daehyun exchanged a glance. Yes, Daehyun confirmed. A little sister. Jihoon beamed. I protect her. I know you will, Daehyun said softly. You're already a great big brother. Jihoon puffed up with pride. Sumi leaned against Daehyun's shoulder. Can you believe this is our life? She murmured. No. He kissed her temple. But I'm grateful for it every single day. No regrets? Not one. She looked up at him. Not even the Empire? Daehyun looked at Jihoon playing with Sumi's hands, at the baby growing inside her, at the woman who'd forgiven him when he didn't deserve it. The Empire was built on fear, he said quietly. This is built on love. There's no comparison. Sumi's eyes glistened. I love you, she whispered. I love you too. He pulled her closer. Both of you, all three of you. Jihoon looked up. And me? Especially you, buddy. Daehyun ruffled his hair. You're the one who made me brave enough to change. Jihoon didn't fully understand, but he grinned anyway. And in that moment, in that park, under the afternoon sun, Park Daehyun realized something. He'd spent his whole life trying to build an empire. But his real empire had been here all along, in the laughter of his son.
You have 2 options. Keep watching short clips. Unlock the full story now. 14 full episodes. New content every week. Listen anytime, anywhere, no interruptions. Exclusive members only area. Choose the story theme once a week. Scan the QR code now. Access is closing.